I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Wrong Cat Died. This is Mike Abrams, your host. I'm excited for you to hear this episode with Elise O'Connell, who is Grizabella on the Royal Caribbean Cruises Oasis of the Sea right now. I wanted to just give a quick disclaimer before the episode starts that Elise is actually still on the cruise when we were recording this. And so this was recorded outside at port where the internet was a little funky and a lot of background noises with cars and a lot of people. So we did our best with the editing to get the audio the best we could. There's still definitely some moments that you'll hear where it kind of cuts out a little bit, or there's definitely some background noise. But the episode was so fun. Elise had such amazing theories and stories and experience from doing it on the boat that we still wanted to release it. So I'm excited for y'all to hear this, but just know ahead of time about the audio issues. So I apologize for that, but excited for you to enjoy the episode.
There's a cat over here, there's a cat over there, and the wrong one died, and the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. She's actually currently on the boat of the Royal Caribbean Cruise Oasis of the Seas, performing as Grizabella. So welcome, Elise O'Connell. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. I know when I messaged you and we were talking about it, I was trying to see if we could get some more cruise cats on, and you were like, I'm in the middle of a 2-show day, so I would love to chat. So I love that you're like in the thick of things right now. But let's start with the pre-history of cats. So before the cruise, before getting booked, what was your experience with the show?
So my first experience, I went to Performing Arts High School in Chicago. And one of our assignments, I think my sophomore year of high school, was to perform the T.S. Eliot poems in acting class. So I kind of
reading them.
Yeah. So I kind of came at the show in a very different way than most, I think. So I knew the poems, knew the backstory from that side of things on a literature side, and then hadn't watched the show at all until my freshman year of college, when one of my best friends was absolutely obsessed with the musical and ran into the sea. And for a million years, I think it was a show that I could do. One, because at the time, Grizabella was not younger. And also I'm not a dancer, and I didn't realize that Grizabella is mostly a singing acting track. So came at the show in a very different way, but very grateful for it.
That's amazing. So you did, by doing the poems, you actually didn't do Grizabella's poem though, right? Because that's not in the book.
Exactly. At the time, I think I was assigned the Monday Day Record Tuesday poem. So I knew that very well, and it was always my favorite memory in the show when I had first seen it. So kind of very opposite to Grizz.
Yeah. So then you get cast, you are going through rehearsal process. How much of did you lean back on knowing that? Because you obviously knew a little bit of the work, but having not seen it, I guess you saw it in high school, but did you lean in on the poetry and try to build the arc from there? Or did you kind of go in of, here's this many, many years of history and 16 years, I think, of Royal Caribbean history to kind of build off of?
Yeah, so we are very, very fortunate role. So our director, Mega Flowers, along with our choreographer, Grizabella, and the whole creative team work very closely with Rob. So on the very first day of rehearsals, instead of learning any choreography or learning any music, we sat in a circle and read through the poems, talked about the history of the show to really make sure everyone was on the same page, and started building our tribe that way.
I love that. It's so fun to kind of hear the how you come up with the backstory, especially since your production is different because it's only 90 minutes, so you don't have some characters. So do they go through in the rehearsals that part where it's here's kind of what anybody who's coming in who's a Cats historian and has known it is expecting versus what you're going to deliver, which is a no intermission, slightly tweaked version of it?
we did talk about the show, the parts of the shows that are not in it, like Buster Begins, Peaks and Follicles, all of that. And sort of talked about how our story goes because it is a 90-minute version. And you have the main meat of the show in there. There are some bits that are missing, but you meet all of the important parts that are going on later. And that's the most important. And it's really easily digestible for a cruise ship audience.
Totally. Yeah, you kind of have to. You can't have an intermission in a show that no one's paying for and expect them to stay and come back. But what did they tell you about Grizabella? Like, what was the Grizabella story that you kind of built out or that was kind of started in rehearsal?
So a lot of it is up to the person who plays her. There's obviously some backstory from the T.S. Eliot poem that isn't included in the book. But a lot of how Grizz was created is based on the person herself. The walking and the notes on the page, everything is very detailed and very specific, and that isn't really changed ever. But how you approach the character can be up to you. So that might be a little bit personal side of things that I bet people will think it's myself.
I was going to say, what are you willing to share? Like, what is your Grizabella then?
I think, so we, a little secret bit that many people probably do know, but every character has 3 words that are most important to them, and they're given to you. And my favorite word that Grizabella has is indomitable. She is beaten down and is not afraid to continue to stand back up. And I think that's really important about my Grizz.
Do you think about, or did you think about where Grizz went when she left the tribe? Like, did you fill in that backstory?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's your take?
There are many different things that people will say. And if you look on the little fandom pages, you can see pages and pages of different ideas of what happened. But I think she just lived a life. She lived pursuing dreams that she thought she could have outside of the tribe and that the tribe couldn't provide for her. Whether that was, a career as something glamorous, so in the world of entertainment, whether she was a jazz singer or a model or any of those things. And obviously there was some deep, deep trauma that occurred to her while she was gone. And she realizes that she needs to get back to the tribe in order to save herself.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that because the fandom piece, especially because there is so much, and that's what's become interesting. So how did you marry what you were able to read online or hear from my show or all this other different things that you can listen to and read versus your own personal experience and your own character building?
Sure. So I think the fact that I came at this show not having been someone who grew up seeing it for years, and I didn't grow up with the VHS tape that so many people have near and dear to their hearts. I was able to come at it sort of as an outsider of it, which is what Grizz is. She's an outsider of the tribe. She's outcast. She's isolated, and coming into it with that different perspective, I think it's helpful for the character itself.
Yeah. Completely true. I mean, it's almost like the isolation helps because there is that's the story arc, that is being out and then being welcomed back and kind of being brought back in.
Absolutely.
I want to go a little bit about now the being on the boat. Obviously, you're towards the end of your year in your contract, so you've had all of the experiences doing this. So I want to start by asking a little bit about boat life in general, because you do this show twice in a week, right? Or maybe 3 times in a week.
3 times.
But it's not 3 times in a week. Okay. But it's not for, again, a paid audience. So what's the audience experience like on the cruise with this material? It's a very well-known musical, but it's a different musical and also somebody who's on there not for the musical. They're there for a cruise.
Yeah. So we have something that I think is really helpful before the shows on both sides of the stage. There are TV screens that show our bios and our headshots, but along with that slideshow, there's an able digestible paragraph that kind of gives what people are getting into when they come to to give some history on, the stats of how long it ran on Broadway and on the West End, but it also just gives the plot in one paragraph or less. And I think that is really helpful. And then when we talk to guests on the ship leading up to the show, often they'll say, okay, what do we need to know going into Cats? We'll say, you have to take it for what it is. Don't overthink. It is Cats competing. And if you overthink it, then, you get a little lost, and completely understand that. But when people take it at face value, they tend to love it.
Yeah. What's that paragraph say? What's the one paragraph plot of Cats that's put on the wall?
I know, I see it when we're warming up for the show every day. So I know it starts off talking about the T.S. Eliot poems and talking about people need to go to the Habitat lair. And that one cat will be reborn when chosen. So something along those lines. I know that's the gist of it. But if you take that paragraph for what it is, you know exactly what you're getting into in the show.
Yeah. Well, I love your advice to just go in and embrace it for what it is. And because that's what I always tell people who are seeing it for the first time is it's really good dancing. It's really catchy music. Mm-hmm. If you try to overanalyze the plot, you might pull your hair out, but it's a pretty simple plot if you really think about it in the most basic terms.
Absolutely. It's always funny to me seeing kids at the show because the kids understand it so quickly, and because they're not overthinking it. They're just seeing the show, taking it in and embracing it because they don't know any better to overthink. And it's really fun to watch that experience, kids versus parents, because the kids just get it.
Yeah, it's been a long kind of standing thing of mine of the whole, is this an age appropriate show? Because there is this realm of sexuality that's in there that's very clear. There's some abuse that's in there. There's some dark themes that's not spoken but very clearly there, and the more you learn about it is a very defined piece of the character development. But as a young kid, you're not noticing any of it. I'm always curious now of that early teenager to where it's they might be catching on to some of this. Is maybe this is not the show for them. But as adults, it's you are definitely picking up on some of it.
Absolutely. I think with media in the world today, with TV shows and movies, what they are, if that age of kid is watching regular TV that they can see right now, they're probably picking up on it anyway. Yeah.
That's so true. It's so much of it is in a modern society is a little bit more open, and there's so much stuff out there on social media. But it is an interesting one to kind of to go back. But I am a little bit curious if you can tell me a little bit about the other jobs you do on the boat, because it is kind of a unique position to do Cats 3 times a week, but then also you do all kinds of other stuff because you're not just the performer of Grizabella, you're doing other things. So what is that like for your cast?
Yeah, so it's broken down a little bit differently. So aside from doing Cats, we also do another show called 1-5, which is your typical production show on a cruise ship. So not really a through line or a plot, but great music, and it's a lot of fun with a lot more tech elements involved. So we do that 3 times a week as well. And then we've got a few other things mixed in there, there's a jazz cabaret, there's a Broadway cabaret, and then we have a show called In Concert. So lots of classic rock music in that one. But aside from the performing, the about every other week has to do with called muster. So when the guests get on board that first day, they have to come to what is called their muster station. So where they would go in the event of an emergency, and they come see us. And then aside from that, there are some positions in the cast that have to do dressing for the ice and aqua shows or spotlighting. That's not something that I do on my contract, but a big chunk of our cast does.
Yeah. From a cast standpoint, you obviously are doing a show that puts you very close together, and then you're living very close together. So what is that, are you building an even further plot line into Cats by just the inherent nature of what your experience is like? Is there the Mungo, Jerry, and Rumple teasers even closer together because they have to, be down in the bottom of the ship sleeping in the, close quarters together too?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're very lucky with our cast, that there are 22 of us and we all like each other. And, when you live and work together, that's not always going to be the case. And aside from just being good coworkers, we're all friends, which is really lovely. But we all figured out very early on in the rehearsal process just how to live together and how to enjoy our time together. So we have a lot of close personal relationships in the group, but I don't think there's a single person in our cast that I couldn't go to lunch with and have 2 hours of long chatting.
Yeah, that's amazing. That definitely makes it feel more like a family and a tribe, and probably makes your performing easier too, because you have those relationships already pre-built to make it a little bit more free-flowing, which is great. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. I want to hear fun stories, because I know that things do not always go smoothly on the cruise. And even though that this was built around the stage, I was told that this boat was actually built around this mechanics to bring you to the Heaviside Layer. But what are those wild, memorable stories? Like, let's hear a bunch of the ones that are funny, crazy, memorable, either from your cast, from you, from the audience. Like, what are you going to never forget from your time on this ship?
Oh gosh, so many things. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, there's not even my cast, it was the previous cast, but a perfect story for how living on a cruise ship and doing a show goes. We have code words and things that come over the loudspeakers on the ship, whether there's any kind of emergency going on. And a medical emergency on our ship is a code alpha. And our last Grizabella, who you spoke with, now Dan, was in the middle of memory, was on the floor. And as she got up, there was a code alpha that happened. So it came over the loudspeaker. Whenever that happened, our music cut out, our mics cut out. And the show didn't necessarily have to stop, but everything in your body goes on muscle memory and almost autopilot to work hard to make sure that you don't have to stop here. Make sure was on the floor, code alpha happened, stood up, and just magically the mics came back in on touching. And I've only heard this story, I've not seen it itself, but I can't imagine a better ship life experience there. And I'm sure she's going to have that video for the rest of her life. Who's probably one of them.
That is amazing. That's like incredible timing too, of like the most dramatic moment you can get, and having it cut out and then cut right back in
on the perfect moment. But
what about for you?
For me, I don't think I've had any super crazy moments. Our cast, I guess another ship life situation that we in our cast don't have any offstage swings. So whenever there's a situation of someone in the cast of 22 has gone down, whether it's illness, injury, whatever the case may be, we do a rewalk. So we've had many moments where in the opening, there's a section of it called Strut, where we're all walking in a circle. And the first thing that always happens when one person goes down is that Grizabella is walking alone. So I go alone in Strut. So that's happened several times. And it's a testament to how strong our ensemble dancers are when they have to jump in. And aside from jumping into a track, a completely different plot, they're covering different bits. So you'll have Alonzo covering parts of Cassandra's track in the ball, or different bits during Grizabella interactions. So nothing crazy, I don't think has happened, but little things like that you realize how grateful you are for the company that you're with.
Yeah. So you don't have swings, but what happens if like a Mistopheles is out? Is there a cover basically, like a Alonzo Tumblebritish, or somebody comes in and does it?
Yes. So we have basically every track, for the most part, has two covers. So in that case, we have our Pouncible and our Corkapat that cover Misto. So then other people would slide in and cover Pouncible bits if he's on his Mistopheles throughout the rest of the show. So
interesting. Okay. So it's just go down a person, but they fill in so that way the songs and stuff still go on.
Exactly.
I wish you should just pull an audience member up. Be like, hey, we're one cat short today.
Come on,
Who
man.
wants to dance this part of the ball here right now?
I always joked during rehearsals and install that I was the 25th cover of Mista. So 3 audience members before me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's exactly. Yeah. There's a long line of people before you want me to do those turns.
Exactly.
Has there been any like kind of wild audience interactions after or during of like not knowing what they were walking into or just approaching you after having seen you do it?
So we've had some wonderful moments of both people that didn't know what they were getting into, but then also just big cat fans that come on the ship. We've had some people who come with the costume and makeup. We've had people who have just been cat fans for life that haven't been able to see the show in person before. But one of my favorite interactions that I had, we had a young girl who was on the ship for 3 weeks with her family, and he's a big musical theater fan, hadn't really seen cats, and she kind of got to know us through the time being on the ship, and we were able to bond with her quite a bit. And after seeing cats and experiencing life on the ship and time with us, she had said that it kind of convinced her to pursue her dream of going into the tech side of theater, which was really cool. And just really special moments like that you can't take for granted.
When you have the cat super fans come on, in Cat's cosplay, are they aware that it's a 90-minute version?
For the most part, I think so. I don't think we've had anyone come on and be shocked about it, at least as far as I know. But I think we do a good job of making sure it's advertised that it's 90 minutes. We have an app that you use when you're on the ship, and it'll tell you the time of everything that you're going to, about how long it runs. So I think when people see that, they kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Okay. I'm just imagining somebody coming in full Buster for Jones costume and then just being shocked that he's not there.
I would be so sad for them, but they would take a picture of them in between shows.
Yeah. Let them come on. Add 95 minutes. Let's add the one more song back.
Heck
we can do it.
Oh, I miss Buster. That one would be fun.
What is again, having not had the experience, is there parts of that you wish you kind of had the extra hour of the show, or are you happy to not have to do some of these parts and perform it 3 extra times?
I guess it would probably be an easier question for most of the dancer tracks, because for me, almost nothing of mine is cut. Just the ballet that's before Little Memory is really the only thing that's cut. And I do think it would be interesting to add that bit back in, because it adds quite a layer to the chilling. But it is fun. In place of that, I do stand backstage. Aside from the one bit that I am in the ball, I watch the ball every single night. And aside from just wishing that I could do that, and it's amazing to watch my friends do it every single night and see, one, how unbelievably talented they are, but to watch the story that they're making, aside from executing choreography, they're all acting and telling a story, and it's beautiful to watch. So to be able to watch that and then go on and do Little Memory is really special. So I don't know if I would necessarily change the show as it is, but I'd be curious to do the full version and see how it goes.
A big part of this show has obviously been theories, and I love as you kind of said, that you can read so much stuff online and can pull together to tell your own backstory, but it is left a little open-ended for you all. So I'm curious, you gave me your Grizabella kind of parts. What are other things that your cast has added to the lore that you could share? What are some other parts that maybe aren't exactly sources of truth for this show that you all are playing on stage?
So I think the fun part of that is that it's all very separate and private. We don't really talk about it with each other that much. So we all, after that day in rehearsals where we did the big circle of reading the poems and talking about the show, we, after that, did one-on-one sessions with our director and talked about our individual cast. And everyone has different things that they got from that, most of which I'll never actually hear, which is really interesting and different. I guess the one thing that I can share is that my Jenny and Eliot and I decided that we were definitely, if not sisters, grew up together, which I think many people share that thought. But there's that bit of memory where I say, open up, enter in, and I direct that directly to Jenny and Eliot. So we kind of had that moment and kind of decided to build upon it and decided that we definitely grew up together at the very least.
Okay. Yeah, I love the like secret nature of it where it's like it's almost very personal, and it's kind of also too part of the like the story with how it would be. Like they're a tribe, but they're a family, so they wouldn't share everything, but there are definitely those moments. So that is kind of like helps kind of build into it.
Yeah.
What's been the most surprising part of doing Cats on a Cruise for you from like, again, you're almost at the end of this contract from the very beginning. Like, what's the thing that you didn't expect that has been either pleasant or maybe challenging or different, but like, what's kind of from day one to now, what's been kind of the craziest or things that you're going to look back on?
Well, if you were to ask me, so 2 days ago, we're recording this March 22nd, but on March 20th of last year is when I got my offer. And at that time, I just didn't know. I didn't know anything. I knew Grizabella sang Memory, and I knew she sang Remark, and I knew very superficial things about her story in the show, but I didn't know anything deeper. And I even didn't know to the point that she was in the opening number for real. I knew that she was in the beginning of the opening number, and for some reason, when the boot gets dragged off stage in my brain, I decided that's when she gets to change. So I was in for a rude awakening in rehearsal. But I think the biggest thing I learned is just how much this show can put you as a person, aside from like performers, because it's a hard show to do. And I'd be so curious about doing this show 8 times a week. Because, on one hand, your body is exhausted, and at the same time, doing it 3 times a week, your body recovers and then jumps straight back into it. So I'd be curious to see how much I can handle doing an 8 shows a week versus 3, because in some parts of my brain, I almost think doing it 3 times a week might be harder. Just on our bodies and how not in a routine with it we are. I guess we are in our own routine, but it's just different. But it's definitely pushed me as a human being and as Elise so much more than just a performer. Yeah.
And you, as someone you stated in the beginning, is more actor, singer, and now you are being thrown into some dance numbers. So you're having to kind of add that much more to your repertoire.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up, trained in dance, and I went to Oklahoma City University, so a big dance school. So, I would classify myself as a strong mover, but never in a million years did I think Cats fit into that category.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's do some rapid fire. So if you could play any role one night in Cats, whether you can sing it, dance it, male, female, doesn't matter. You just go on for one track, one night. Who are you going on as?
I'm torn between Tumble and Rumple. Rumple's my favorite character. Tumble, I just love tumbling. I grew up doing that.
Okay. This is the old poems you had to read and growing up is you're still tied to Rumple Teaser.
Yeah.
Favorite and least favorite cat from a personality standpoint? Like which one would you want to hang out with? And which one would bug you a little bit?
I think Jenny would bug me a little bit. Love Emma, the girl who plays her. She's one of my close friends in our Cats. But Jenny herself, I think she would be a little difficult to have hanging around for a fun time.
Yes.
My favorite cat that I think I'd want to hang out with would be Scyllabub. She's so sweet.
Mm-hmm. Favorite song from the show?
I love Remark. And that's my favorite moment as Grizz. It's my favorite moment of the show. I just think it's such a cool introduction to her.
Mm-hmm. So I always like a fun one from a cat's perspective. So if your captain of the boat went missing and someone has to jump in and steer the ship, which cat are you trusting to take the reins?
Oh, Simba. Sure. Who knows how to handle transportation?
Yeah. That was my immediate thought as well. So I'm glad we're there. Okay. Most important question, and it's always fun to talk to Grizabella, but I'm not asking Grizabella. I'm asking you, Elise. My whole show is predicated on Grizabella's not the right Jellicle choice for me. So who is your Jellicle choice and why?
If I can't pick Grizz,
You can pick Grizz, but I'm going to debate with you.
okay. I know coming from it as a Grizabella, I do think Grizabella is the right choice. I think she's gone through so much in life and has had to overcome a lot. And while she might not be the easiest choice, because if I'm picking the easiest choice, the person who probably has earned it, it's Gus. But the person who needs it is Grizabella.
So let me ask, this is my number one question for this argument against Grizabella, and I love asking you, Grizabella, but you go through this whole meaningful welcome back, like you get fully embraced by your family who had shunned you for years, and then you immediately are being told now to leave. Like, why can't you go next year? Why don't you get to spend a year back with your family?
So for me, or for my Grizabella, at the end of memory, she starts to read. And I think she is done. She's got nothing left in her. She used everything she could to be her most vulnerable with them. And if they don't pick her in that moment, I think she is not going to make it. So I think that is, at the beginning of the show, maybe she could have been accepted back in and just could have been okay. But I think we're at that point where she needs to be chosen, otherwise she's not going to get through.
All right, so the family's not going to lift her up and keep her going for another year. It's either leave and die an unhappy death away or be reborn with the choice.
That's what I think.
Okay. That's hard to argue against, because I do think there's obviously the redemption story, and I've never wanted to eliminate that. I've always felt that that's an important part, and you want memory and you want to have that. I like that happy ending. Where I kind of don't like is the happy ending ends with her being murdered instead of getting to be embraced by the family. And so that's kind of been my argument, is let the whole story go, let Gus go up, and she can go next year.
So far, my counter to that would be, instead of thinking of it as she's been murdered, I think it's she's being saved. And my thought process is that hopefully Gus can hang on and he gets picked next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the definition of the Heaviside layer is the crux of the whole argument. Like, what is it? What does it mean? Where do they go? Are they being reborn back into the family? Is it a whole like that part which is undefined? And I think obviously I've analyzed this way more than most people, and I think a lot of the cast and other people have, but I don't think when they created this show they thought about it one bit. I think they were just in a drug-induced 80s kind of building a show, and it was like, yeah, great. And then they moved on, and now it's got 45 years of history to where everyone can analyze this. But it's a fun argument and a fun thing to think about and a fun thing to kind of debate, because the whole point of the show is to have all these people making their cases. And then this one at the end kind of makes the final case. Yeah.
It is one of those things that kind of takes on a life of its own, and everyone has their own idea of what it is, which I think is fun. When it is kind of a piece of history, this show. So people being able to watch it and take many different things away from it for years and years and years is really cool and different. Not many shows get to have that life.
Totally. Has your cast debated the Jellicle choice at all?
Oh gosh, yeah. Most of the time we're doing it in a cheeky way as our characters. So Jenny might think that she needs it, but Jenny's had a great life. Her entire song is about how great she is and what she does. Skimble, same thing. So many of the nominations, now this is just on an Elite side of things and not a Grace side of things. So many of the nominations are talking about how wonderful their lives have been. So why do they need to be going behind on there? I think in my reality, Riz and Gus are the only ones that make sense as the choice. But would love to hear other ones.
There's definitely been some wild arguments on the show of very random cats, and so it has been fun. What about Old Deuteronomy? When's his time?
Oh, I mean, in my eyes, he's training Monk and Tugger to take over, and obviously there's some clashing between the two of them over who is Monk wants to be the right-hand man and is fighting to be the right-hand man, but Tugger is just naturally a charismatic one who everyone loves to hate and loves to look to. And so whenever one of them is ready, maybe that's when old Deuteronomy will say it's time for him to leave as well.
Okay. Got to get the succession plan like fully in order before he's comfortable to be ready to go.
Exactly.
Can't just trust those two to run wild.
Oh gosh, no.
Well, this has been so fun. I'm excited for you to finish the last couple. I mean, you have a couple more shows, I think, and performances. But how can people stay in touch with you for this? Probably will come out after you're done. So whatever's hopefully next for you.
Yeah, so not quite sure what's on the horizon yet. But I'm on Instagram. I'm online. Everyone can find me. It's just at Elise O'Connell. But excited to see where the journey takes me.
Amazing. Well, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on and doing it while, mid cruise and mid ship and mid contract. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of the Wrong Cat Died, a podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that's podcast. Follow us on all social media at The Wrong Cat Died or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.